who is next?
Up next is Rin the Mage. I'm pulling them in right now.
Ah, here we go. Here we go. What question do you have for me, sir?
Yo. Well, I have two questions. Second one, I'll only ask if you didn't already talk about the first one.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the theory that we might have inadvertently saved N'Zoth from his fate in BFA?
I feel like someone said it, maybe, but enlighten me. Go on, let me hear this.
During the Thaldraszus main story quest, while we were leveling, we go back in time to save Chromie and Eternus, and N'Zoth immediately recognizes us and tells us he knows what we will be and what we have been and everything, which means that he also knows that he dies in the future. He's been completely alerted to the fact that he has been killed, which could give him a way to plan far in advance to escape that fate. Which also begs the question: the Xal'atath blade can be used to house souls, and it completely disappeared after Rathian stabbed N'Zoth with it. He could have used it to escape.
A theory that I had, and I'm not sure if you'll still find the video on my channel. I may have actually privated the video already, because I do that. I basically privated all of my videos from Legion and most, I think, from BFA already. So if you want some of the older videos, now's the time to go look for them, because they will be disappearing off the channel. Just because it's too many videos. I have over 1,000 fucking videos. Before I started privating, it was over 2,000. That's too many videos to have. I made a video way back then already, where I basically said that, right? Xal'atath is empty. Rathian takes Xal'atath because the blade is the key to defeating N'Zoth. But we're also, like, think about how we learned that the blade is the key to defeating N'Zoth. It was Xal'atath herself that told us that the blade is the key to defeating N'Zoth. I mean, talk about trustworthy news sources. Like, you want to talk about someone that has the ability to spread fake news and propaganda, that would be it. You know, so we use this blade that not only, you know, is very much an old god weapon, quite clearly from its design up, but also it is a prison for something. And we know that whatever Xal'atath kills, it absorbs. Now, you could say, well, Xal'atath didn't kill N'Zoth, in which case I would say right after Rathian stabs N'Zoth, the blade is gone. Now, if you're N'Zoth and you know what is about to happen to you, you know that you will die because you've seen this as a potential future. Would it not be good for you to keep the blade lodged within your body, right? So you make sure that that blade is still in your body, because at the moment of your death, the blade will absorb you, because that's technically how that blade works. So I made this video all the way back in BFA when we first saw this happen. I was like, N'Zoth isn't dead, he's in the blade. Do I have any other evidence to corroborate that? No. I will say, though, those whispers were wild. Seeing those whispers, hearing them speak, and just, they know us. They immediately felt us. Shows us that it's not a lie that the old gods can see all futures. If you think back to our fight against Il'gynoth, Il'gynoth says, a presence. Something strange, yet familiar. How familiar? Ooh. He's never seen us before. This is the first time we've ever interacted with Il'gynoth. And Il'gynoth says, a presence. Something new, yet familiar. Perhaps Il'gynoth says that because they have always known us. They have known about us since the beginning of time. Because, I mean, literally, when we go back there, we are at the beginning, technically, of time, right? This is during the Black Empire. The old gods are out and about. There are no mortals in on Azeroth anywhere, right? It's just the old gods, and yet they all know us. They know who we are. They know what we're gonna do, more specifically. If anyone had any doubts, I think those whispers should answer those doubts, in my opinion, at least. you should not have any doubts now. The old gods truly do see every single possible truth. Which is also coincidentally why I believe the old gods are still alive. Because if you know how you're gonna die, even if you believe that there are 1,000 other ways in which things can play out, if you know that you are going to die, would you not plan for it? Of course you would. You would do something, at the very least.
Yeah, and speaking of N'Zoth, he's always been the biggest, like, major planner of all the old gods. Like, Xal'atath herself even tells us that N'Zoth has always been the weakest of his brethren.
Yep.
And honestly, when he was, I think he was also the first captured under the from the Titans, like after they pulled Yasharaj out.
Yeah.
I think that the Titans inadvertently made him stronger by imprisoning him.
Yeah, I mean, it gave him more time to plan, because he was considered to be the smallest of all of the old gods. But coincidentally, if you listen to all of the whispers of Xal'atath, he also never lost. She even says it, right? It is here where the god of the deep lost a great battle to the god with 7 heads. That's N'Zoth versus Yasharaj. Now, Yasharaj is considered to be the most powerful and also the biggest of all of the old gods. He lost a great battle against the god with 7 heads. But as was so often the case, even in defeat, the god of the deep ultimately won. You see, because he planned ahead. He knew what you were going to do before you even did it. And rather than try and resist what you're going to do, he would use what you were about to do to his favor. Now, I speculated at the time what N'Zoth did, and this might be news to a lot of people that's new to the channel. To those of you that's been here for a while, you guys know what I'm talking about here. N'Zoth knew that the Titans were on their way. He saw that truth. He knew that it was coming. Who would the Titans ultimately set their sights on first? The biggest. Whoever was the biggest, that would be the biggest threat. Knowing that if you're the biggest, there's a good chance that you die permanently. You're not just locked up. You fucking dead, bro. Why not lose? Because by losing, you give up territory, which means you're smaller and your opponent grows bigger. This means that the Titans arrive. They have an option of 4 old gods, all doing their old god things. They go to the biggest and go, never mind, you come with us. Right? Rip him out of the planet, kill him instantly. Now there's only 3 small ones left. But they can't pull them out because the one that they just pulled out nearly killed the planet. So they lock him up. This works in N'Zoth's favor. So yeah, I think we have every reason to believe that N'Zoth very much wanted everything that has happened to have happened exactly in the way that it's happened. And there's one final piece of information that I'll give you on this. All throughout BFA, N'Zoth never once tries to kill us. He only tests us. He's tasting us. In what was the raid called? 2-boss raid. I can't remember what it's called.
Shrine of the Storm, I think.
Yeah.
Is that the dungeon? Something like that.
Crucible of Storms, thank you.
Yeah, that one.
The Crucible of Storms, it's tests. They're continuously saying, you failed, you're not strong enough, let's test you, let's make sure that you're good enough, N'Zoth wants you for something. Why? Why would you test the very people that's coming to kill you? Surely you must know that you can't turn us, not all of us. Right? So the question becomes, test us for what? What would be his sense, what would be his reason for testing us? And then in fighting us, it also appears as if that is part of a test as well. So, yeah, I have every reason to believe that whatever we did for N'Zoth worked out exactly the way that N'Zoth wanted it to work out.
That's why he's the best villain since Arthas.
I agree. That's why he's one of my most beloved characters. He's definitely in my top 5 because I love characters that is sort of... more strategist rather than just pure fucking let's go. I like the strategy part of things. I like the sort of I'm gonna outthink you rather than outdo you. So I do agree with you. Nazoth is a huge favorite of mine. And I really hope that there's more to his story because the way we said goodbye to him is so fucking criminal. I cannot stand. We need another Nazoth expansion where if we are going to say goodbye to him, it needs to be proper. You know, we need a proper Black Empire and a proper... Now, I have a question, and I don't have any sort of thoughts on this outside of it just being a question that resides with me. What if all of the old gods are within Xalatath?
In the blade?
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be sick.
Yeah, also very scary, right? Because you have three old gods that may now emerge as one mega old god because they've literally all been placed inside the dagger. And if you remember correctly, it was also Nazoth that freed Xalatath, thereby clearing the blade for his inevitable imprisonment within it. So, yeah, you know?
Yeah, my question to that would be, how did the other two, Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron, get in the blade?
Well, we don't... There's vast areas of the history of Xalatath that we know nothing about. Like, vast swaths of history with Xalatath that we just don't know about. Xalatath, however, does seem to be infinitely familiar with the fall of each of the old gods. She seems to know how they lived and also how they died, as if she was there at some point in time.
Did Xalatath say what she was intending to do after she was freed?
No, she just left through
Well,
a portal.
maybe Nazoth had struck a deal. He frees her, and then once he's in the blade, she comes back to free him, and he's just free.
I don't
doing
know.
his own thing.
I don't know, because it doesn't appear as if Xalatath was placed in that blade voluntarily. She had to serve in order to earn her freedom. And once she had her freedom, she seemed to have been very insistent on getting away as quickly as possible.
Fair enough.
She just wanted to leave. Now, it's not saying that you're wrong. You could very well be correct on this. It would appear as if Xalatath has a story, but that story didn't start with the old gods. Wherever it started, it wasn't the old gods. There's something deeper there. How do we know what that is, though? She lies about fucking everything, so... Yeah.
Does that mean you think that I don't think I've actually heard you talk about this before. Do you think Xalatath is not an old god, or is there any potential for her to be one?
No, I don't think she's an old god. If
Fair
she
enough.
is, so what my original theory was, I'll give you my original theory, but I have changed my mind on this. But my original theory was that Xalatath was the first old god that died. She was very tiny, very small, very underdeveloped, because there was no space for her on Azeroth. And the only reason I sort of went with that theory is because we know that for a while it was rumored that there are 5 old gods. Not just 4. But we never knew what happened to the 5th. We know that there were 5 all the way back to the days of Warcraft 3 already. The plan was always to have 5 old gods, and yet still, we never heard about a 5th one. So the only argument could be that the 5th one was killed long before we actually even learned about them. Xalatath speaks about when you walk into Orgrimmar, and I've never been able to figure out why this whisper happens in Orgrimmar. But Xalatath, when you enter Orgrimmar, says, they will pay for what was done to me. In Orgrimmar? Wait, what do you mean? When you were imprisoned in that blade, the orcs weren't even on Azeroth. Orgrimmar didn't exist, the trolls would technically have, if they have been born yet, they would have been tiny and insignificant. What exactly, who will pay for what was done to you?
I pulled up the wiki to take a look, and it does mention that the Zandalari briefly had possession of Xalatath.
Yeah.
One of the high priests or would-be kings that tried to defeat Rastakhan was trying to use it, and then after that, it got lost to the ages until it got into the possession of the Naga.
Yeah. I mean, so we know that, the Zandalari, but the Zandalari isn't the Darkspear, which are the trolls that you would find in Orgrimmar. So even that doesn't answer the question of why did Xalatath say they will pay for what was done to me? To whom the fuck was she speaking? Yeah, who will pay? The weird creatures that's in Ragefire Chasm? Like maybe something happened in Ragefire Chasm? Could she be speaking about the elements? Because that's a very fire-heavy elemental dungeon. Could it have been the elements? I don't know. I just know something is weird with Xalatath. And I've not been able to find a good argument for what that would be.
This might be a stretch, but old gods are fucking gigantic, right?
Yeah.
Maybe she's referring to Cthulhu, but he's on the other side of Kalimdor. But at least his avatar was.
The thing is, she has different whispers about each of the old gods when you go to the places they live. I can't remember the whisper that she had when you went to go see Cthulhu, but she had a whisper there for him as well. This is specifically when you walk into Orgrimmar. It triggers that whisper. Like, specifically, you have to enter Orgrimmar, and then it triggers that whisper. So it means that whatever the fuck happened, it happened either with one of the races inside Orgrimmar, or the place where Orgrimmar is. So in other words, what if that was her sacrifice? So that was the location where she was sacrificed. The location where she was placed inside that blade. Because we know also, due to the fact that she was freed, that she wasn't always a blade. At some point, Xalatath was an actual being. Mortal or immortal, we don't know. But it was an actual being that was placed inside the dagger and then became a tool for the old gods. Perhaps because of some betrayal. Perhaps because of some order of service or servitude. I don't know. But I do know that Xalatath has been one of my greatest frustrations, but also one of my biggest joys in World of Warcraft. Because I always go back, at least once every 6 months or so, I revisit the Whispers of Xalatath to see if anything new can be gleaned. Basically at the beginning of every expansion and every patch, I'll go back and I'll look at the Whispers to see if anything new has emerged. All of the new information with all of the Whispers, how does that play against one another, you know?
Well, piggybacking off of that, is it all right if I ask one more tiny question?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it, bro.
Aside from N'Zoth, which old god, and let's just throw Xalatath in there for fun, which old god do you think has the most potential for future stories?
Yogg-Saron. Absolutely. He is, at least in some way, tied to Galakrond. And how is not obvious, because Yogg-Saron seems to have now started to reveal himself as a major player in the influence game, not just in the direct assault game. Him literally corrupting the waters that would allow for Galakrond to be born is a level of forethought that I would have attributed to N'Zoth and N'Zoth alone. The fact that Yogg-Saron would do this suggests there's more to that old god than what we thought. I would say my least favorite would be Cthulhu. Cthulhu seems to have been a very straightforward old god and also easily stopped. Now, that could just be due to how storytelling worked back in the day, but I would say probably not. Like, I think Cthulhu was always supposed to be sort of a throwaway god. It was always, I think, about Yogg-Saron and N'Zoth. Those two. And also there's that thing that Yogg-Saron used to call himself, the god of death. How? Like, if you're an old god of the void, how are you a god of death? Like, just how? How does that happen? Especially now that we know what death looks like. Is death real? Has death been changed? Are you the true death and everything else is just an imitation of death? So yeah, I would say Yogg-Saron probably.
I was going to point out too that Yogg-Saron's theme is the one that plays when Bolvar is crowned the Lich King, and I don't know if they just completely forgot about that, but that's pretty damn interesting.
No, I think it was on purpose.
Oh, actually,
It was on purpose.
all of the Scourge uses Serenite for their weapons and armor.
Yeah.
That's Yogg-Saron's blood.
Yeah.
They're currently leaderless. He's the god of death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
Maybe he could take over.
I mean, it's possible that he was in charge before the Lich King happened. Because here's the question that I have had about the creation of a Lich King since the inception of it. The Lich King has the ability to control the undead, right? It can control the undead. It doesn't really seem to have much control over the living. Not as much, at least. Except, of course, for Azol Narub and the Nerubians, which seems to be the only other species that he can control, at least from an influence standpoint. So, why would Sargeras make a Lich King in order to pave the way for his invading forces, and then specifically place that Lich King in Northrend, the least populated area on Azeroth? It is the most northern part of Azeroth. Like, place him next to Stormwind and turn the whole Stormwind into your fucking army, right? You don't need the Lich King there. So why put him there? Well, maybe
to depower Yogg-Saron.
Well, maybe there's already been undead there. What if Yogg-Saron had... Because Galakron could raise the dead. Every single being that Yogg-Saron... that Galakron killed, all the dragons came back. What if Yogg-Saron did it first? And the Lich King was designed specifically to control the undead that Yogg-Saron had already created. So basically to remove control from Yogg-Saron and give it to Zuval.
I like that. That's cool.
Do we know of any moment in history where the Lich King didn't have an army of undead? No.
It's very ambiguous. I don't think it's ever mentioned, but...
Well, we know that the Scourge broke out, right? And the Scourge created a large swath of undead. But that was in the Eastern Kingdoms, right? The undead didn't necessarily make their way to Northrend.
He had to have had an army in order to defeat the Nerubians.
Yeah, true. So again, we come back to he probably had an army already, and that army had to belong to someone before him. So the guy that says, hey, I'm the god of death, maybe, quite literally, he used to be the guy that had the Scourge, and then the Lich King came, and he controlled the Scourge. Which, yeah, I like that. I like the theory of that, because it makes Yogg-Saron even more interesting as a character.
I like it a lot. It's really cool.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you wanted to ask, bro, or?
No, that's everything. I don't want to hold you up any longer.
All right, cool, bro. Thank you very much for the question, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great night or day, whatever.
Same to you, bro. Peace out.